place that's 50% empty. Oh, you didn't enjoy your inauguration?
Colbert's got a show from home tonight on CBS.
I should probably go.
Okay.
I mean, I'd love to stay, but...
Oh, don't wait, because this will work good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you should probably just hit the road.
Okay. I had a lovely time.
Oh, me too. Yeah. You should probably go before it gets weird.
Yeah, rush that. Yeah, okay.
Oh, that was a while. Hey, you did good.
Thank you. How good? You know what? Never mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even really young kids are feeling what's going on right now. How should parents be talking to them about this whole question of racial justice?
How do we embrace this moment and turn it into real change?
What we really must focus on is moving from protesting to policy.
Did we just wake up at the exact same time?
I think we did.
We're totally in sync, even when we're asleep.
We're cuter than otters.
And I thought marriage was going to be terrible.
You don't need to say that every morning.
But I love that I can share my every thought with you.
You can, but maybe sometimes you shouldn't. For instance, the other day when you were telling me that my arms were getting flabby.
Oh, I just said that because I didn't want to push you up that hill.
So you weren't being mean, you were being lazy.
Can't I be both?
Better than anyone. What do you have planned today?
Let's see. I'm going to take the shirts to the dry cleaners, fix Mr. Munson's freezer, and, oh yeah, officially take your last name.
What's wrong with this freezer?
I think you missed the headline.
No, I heard you, but our freezer's been acting weird. Could be the same thing.
Adam, I have an appointment at the Social Security office where I will fill out a government form. After 22 years, I am allowing myself to show up on the grid.
I know, that's a big step for you.
Yeah, especially since there's a small chance I might be arrested.
And if you do, I can't be forced to testify against you because I'm your husband.
That right there, that's why I want to be Bonnie Janikowski.
Cool. And keep me posted on that freezer thing.
Why are you acting like this isn't hugely important to you?
Whatever makes you happy, Bonnie. It really doesn't matter to me.
Well, it matters to me, and I'm doing it. Smooth.
Hey, no time.
All you have to do is say hey back.
I don't have time for hey. My boss thinks 15 minutes early is 5 minutes late. I still haven't finished proofreading those contracts.
I would have read those last night so I'd be prepared for work and be able to give my mother the cheery good morning she deserves.
Veronica kept me at the office till 2 a.m. She never gets tired. She's like a machine that runs on yelling and very expensive goat yogurt.
Well, whatever you do, just don't pull a Christie.
What's that mean?
You know, try hard for a little while, then quit.
How is that pulling a Christie? I finished college. I'm in law school. I work great.
Don't do the list. Hey, see? First time.
Point is, I am not going to quit this. She's a senior partner. Her name is on the building. If I do a good job, maybe she hires me when I graduate, where you know what, I'm a judge, and then eventually a Supreme Court justice. They seem okay with alcoholics now, so I could actually have a shot.
The sun is pretty incredible. It makes Lipton green tea better, and these lemons better, which makes this taste better. You definitely need the sun for that, and that. with vitamin C and 50% fewer calories. Choose Lipton green tea today.
Where can a healthier heart lead you? For people with heart failure taking Entresto, it may lead to a world of possibilities. Entresto helps people stay alive and out of the hospital. Don't take Entresto if pregnant. It can cause harm or death to an unborn baby. Don't take Entresto with an ACE inhibitor or aliskiren, or if you've had angioedema with an ACE or ARB. The most serious side effects are angioedema, low blood pressure, kidney problems, or high blood potassium. Ask your doctor about Entresto.
There are thoughts that are hard to control. You're not good enough. But I am enough. And I know what I'm made of. Put your skin in the game with a razor that puts your skin first. Can you love wearing powerful sunscreen? Yes, Neutrogena Ultra Sheer. Superior protection helps prevent early skin aging and skin cancer with a clean feel. It's the one, the best for your skin. Ultra Sheer Neutrogena.
Joyce Floyd's death has inspired a movement. We are witnessing it right now. Where do things go for you now?
We have to talk to people, listen.
Why is it important for you guys to come out?
If we just stayed home, nothing would change.
What do you hope comes from this?
This is what's coming from it. The change is here.
That was all kinds of bad idea. Sorry, Art. Christy! Come in, Christy! Come in, Christy! Come in, Christy! What took you so long? No, sorry, I had to adjust my skirt. This zipper just wants to be in the front.
I need you to confirm my lunch at Malone's. Also, pull the files on the Onyx merger. I need you to get my car details. Don't take it to the place I don't like. Pick up my prescription at the pharmacy and get those cucumbers out of my lemon water. Schedule a meeting for Thursday with Thad and
Thursday.
check the court calendar to see which judge I landed in the Higgins case. If it's Barrett,
It is
ask me.
her.
If it's Johnson, file for an extension. If it's Clark, kill me now.
Can you just say all that again to myself?
No!
Hi, Ken.
Hello, young lady.
I've been waiting for that all day.
Look at those legs. All the way to the floor.
Hey, missed your chance. I'm married now.
Well, so am I. It makes it more exciting.
No, I can hear you.
The only thing that still works on her is the ears. So, what you got?
5 shirts.
All right, the last name, plug it.
Actually, I'm on my way to the Social Security office where I will officially become Bonnie Jankowski.
Sheesh. J-A-N-E.
No, J-A-N-I.
No, let's slow down. J-A-N-E.
No, J-N-I-K. Wait. J-A-N-I-K.
Are you sure there's no C?
Well, now I'm not. Give me a pen. I gotta write this down. None of this looks right. There. I think that's it.
No. So there is a C?
Damn it, just leave it plunket.
No, disabuse your client of the notion he is going to walk away from this thing with anything that even resembles a win. It's over, and everyone knows it but you. Hang it up! Hang it up!
I love watching you work.
Well, that's creepy. Take these. Where is my prescription?
Right here? The pharmacist said to take some.
I know how to take them. You want one? You want one.
somewhat as expected, the protest downtown turning a little bit violent right now as police have now moved into the downtown area.
That's right. We've been following this for the last couple of hours. This is all in reaction to the ruling today over Bernardo Palacios. We do want to go back out to our live crews in the field where there's been criminal activity, but no violence until recently. Jeremy, tell us what's changed out there.
Heidi and Mark has escalated considerably in the last 10 minutes. The riot police have moved in. They are clashing as we speak with these protesters. This is at the intersection of 500 South and State Street. What we heard was that some protesters were breaking out windows at the district attorney's office with pipes, and they brought in the public order unit from Salt Lake City Police, and there is now a clash just in the intersection with Salt Lake City Police and these protesters who remain there. There's a very large police presence. They have shut down State Street basically from 400 South to 600 South, and there are up to hundreds of police officers. Many of the protesters dispersed, but at this point it looks like there's still a group of probably up to 100 that are still kind of in this standoff right now with the public order unit from Salt Lake Police. So at this point, they have moved in a lot more officers, and it is just they showed up about 15 minutes ago with their kind of riot police vans. Those riot officers came out. Then more officers have tried to come up behind them to watch their backs. And at this point, there is a very, very hostile confrontation going on right now between the police. We have heard the police order them back. They've said it's an unlawful assembly. Everybody needs to leave the area. And at this point, what I can tell you is that looks like there's some more police units that are arriving right now. So at one point, one of the police vans actually ran one of the cars. The protesters had just set up cars at the intersection at 500 South and State Street, and to block off their own protest areas. Those vans, and this van that you can see right here that they're backing out, I don't know if this is a police officer behind the wheel, I assume it is. That van was rammed by a police van to get them out of there. Now you can see just beyond this van, the crowd seems to be moving off towards the Grand America Hotel. I don't know if they're dispersing, but they're moving just to the south. So it was a hard line across the road, and at this point, they have started to go down over there. There's also a lot of people that are here to observe. There's some media members here, and the riot police. Oh my goodness, there's a Domino's guy who just went through the whole thing. I had no idea what was going on. So at this point, they've moved over to the street corner. It looks like they're all trying to get out of the road. I don't know if that would put them in compliance with this unlawful assembly ruling, but they appear now to be gathering on the street corners. You can see this is on the southwest corner of 500 South and State Street, outside the Grand America. I'm going to just observe around for a little bit because this is very hostile.
Right. Hey, Jeremy, we do understand that this escalated about 30 minutes ago when two men, one with an axe and another what looked like a sledgehammer, broke out about 5 or 6 windows back at Sim Gill's office, back in Salt Lake County prosecutor's office there. So once those windows started to break and the property was being damaged and there was some concern for some people that were inside the building, that's when police showed up, locked arms, started taking positions in the street, and started confronting, walking towards the protesters to try to get them back from this area.
That's right. This all started, if you're just joining us right now, at 6 o'clock tonight. It started off looking like it was going to be a peaceful protest, but very soon after that started, they went down there with those 10-gallon kind of buckets of paint, red paint that they dumped all over the road, all over the front of the DA's office there, the brand new building, and police kind of stood back and let them do that because it wasn't violent, there was criminal activity. But the strange thing that's happened in this protest until now is that they actually had organizers blocking our cameras with umbrellas and signs, not allowing us to show any of that criminal activity happening. And then, as Mark said, just in the last 30 minutes, that's when the police moved in, when they started breaking up those windows. Definitely an escalation.
Yeah, Jeremy, they've been taking up positions and slowly making a move towards protesters to try to push them back. And there have been clashes. There have been some fights between police and protesters, and it really was getting dicey out there.
Yeah, they're happening, Mark and Heidi, and it seems like at this point,
defund the police!
Most of the protesters have gone to the south and 500 South. Police are now kind of set up with their backs to the middle of the intersection, watching both sides. We're obviously on the other side of them, so there's quite a bit of hostility here. I just want to put a disclaimer out there. There may be some foul language that we can't control what's going on around us because we're hearing a lot of yelling. extremely important. I have not seen a situation like this. I mean, this is reminiscent of what happened on the 30th of May during the riot downtown. The hostility is here, the tension, and as you mentioned, Mark, there seemed to be the vandalism at the DA's office. That seemed to be escalating quite a bit into possibly getting into the building, and that's when the riot police ended up showing up, getting called in. And so, as far as I can tell right now, this seems like it's all Salt Lake City police. I don't know if they have other units. We have seen the state helicopter that was started circling the area with a megaphone saying this is an unlawful assembly, and the police are asking everybody to please disperse and leave. There seems to be another group of protesters. The main group that really had the flashes released is now on State Street, directly east of the Grand America, and between 500 and 600 some. The police are not obviously not being met with any sort of reception here and asking people to leave. As far as I can tell, the folks who are here trying to run the media cameras, we're not getting that same level of harassment right now, but it's certainly hostile from what we're seeing.
All right, Jeremy, thanks. Having a hard time hearing Jeremy with his mic there. It might be just all the noise that's going on around him, but police, again, taking up offensive positions, moving towards protesters, telling them to disperse. It's an unlawful gathering, and it looks like the police are starting to get the upper hand, and we do see a lot of protesters starting to walk away and starting to disperse now. So.
That's right. There has been also flying overhead. We can hear our station on Main Street is about a block away from where this is happening, and we've been able to hear the DPS helicopter that arrived a few minutes ago. It's flying overhead, and with one of their loudspeakers asking people to disperse. So it does look like some people are leaving, but certainly not everyone there. We are noticing too, I think Jeremy's trying to explain to us, that some of their police vans had been tagged by those protesters.
All right, Michael Locklear, also down to the protest. Michael, I hope you're safe. Hope you're in a good spot. What are you seeing?
Yeah, we are. So we see the majority of the protesters marching south on State Street. You can see them going in that direction. They've been moving away from the district attorney's office and have taken to State Street right now. The white van that you see at the back of the protesters was earlier rammed by a police van, rammed to block the barricade that the protesters had established at State Street and 500 South. Police did that in order to get past that vehicle barricade. We now see that that white van is traveling with the protesters, a group of, I would say, 50 to 100 people who are marching against south on State Street. Now, there is a large police presence here at that intersection, State Street and 500 South. You can see maybe 50 or so police officers. Earlier, they were clashing with the protesters. They were attempting to, it appeared from my vantage point, move the protesters back from this intersection back toward the DA's office, and we heard some clashing on the plastic. Sounded like the protesters were basically up against those shields of the police. Again, a big police presence here. This is just to set the scene here, right across from Washington Square, the city county building. You're looking at Matheson Courthouse there, and the district attorney's office. This is where this is all happening. So kind of a couple of scenes. There are a few dozen protesters who've remained in Washington Park. Some of them shouting at police officers right now. So we have a few dozen protesters who've remained here. They're now outnumbered by police, who also have established a pretty good perimeter here. We see a number of police cruisers in the surrounding blocks as well. Now there's some traffic coming through. Let's see how this plays out with this red car and others going through this intersection. A little bit of a confusing time here. Let's just watch and see what's going to happen. I'm not sure if these are just drivers who happen to be in the area and there was no police barricade, no protest barricade, and so now they're getting through. A little bit of confusion with Salt Lake City police. Their van kind of getting into position, and now an officer is waving those cars through.
Michael, we also had a camera, a roof camera, shooting down. We also had several protesters sitting on a tracks line in downtown Salt Lake City. There's a shot of that happening right now. So UTA probably not getting through at this point because, and a lot of times when these protests start downtown, they don't come through the downtown area. But again, some protesters sitting on a tracks line in downtown Salt Lake City.
And interestingly enough, Michael, while you're still down there right now, hopefully you can hear us. This has seemed like there's been a very organized effort with protesters there tonight. Our cameras and the cameras of every other news station down there tonight, blocked by umbrellas and groups of people who would follow those cameras. Something I've never seen before. Are they still trying to do that, or have all those people left at this point that were policing their own protests?
So we've had some people from time to time who've been blocking cameras, but nothing like we saw earlier. It seemed like earlier the journalists were the target. Now that police have moved in, it's the police who are clashing with the protesters. There have been some attempts to block our camera, but nothing like we saw earlier. We've just been watching these police officers. Now they're moving south on State Street. And yeah, we're kind of trying to get a sense of what's going on, as there are about 30 officers there. There are about 10 or 15 in that direction, trying to see what they're going to do next.
All right, sit tight there, Michael. We want to go back to Jeremy Harris.
That's right. He is also live in downtown Salt Lake City. We've actually got a picture on camera right now with State Street at 400 South. You can see the police have blocked it off, and I think at this point they're just trying to figure out what the protesters are going to do next. It seems like it's quieted down a little bit where you are, Jeremy.
For the time being, Heidi, yes, things have quieted down here at 500 South, but it's because it pushed south to where you saw Michael there, 600 South and State Street. So public order unit is down here. It looks like they're moving some vehicles. I don't know where these cars would have come from. They may be residual cars that were on 600 South, because I imagine that the police have now shut down the arteries into the downtown area on 600 South. Public order unit looks like it's still pushing south. We don't know exactly where that protest group has gone, but for the time being, there's just a few folks that have remained here in the area, on kind of the area of City Hall, between Matheson Courthouse, the DA's office. There's still a heavy police presence, and we're probably going to walk down behind this riot squad here. We don't know what the protesters' next move is. We don't know what the police next move is. When we've seen the public order unit before, oftentimes there's an initial show of force, then they have other reinforcements if they need them. So we don't know that determination has been made yet. There was a really hostile clash right as this all was started. When the public order unit moved in, there was an extremely hostile clash right outside of the Matheson Courthouse, and we did see some of the officers using their batons to push people back. We saw some of the protesters throwing what looked like bottles at the police. There may have been rocks thrown in there too, so we just saw just a very hostile clash going on between police and those protesters. So at this point, right now, again, we're at 500 South and State. It looks like the protesters have gone south on State Street, and I'm not exactly sure of their immediate location. You can hear above us the state police helicopter, Department of Public Safety. They came out here. That was the first sign that police were going to move in, was this helicopter came overhead, and ever since it showed up, it has been repeating a message saying, this is an unlawful assembly, you need to move the area. Now look right here at the intersection. You can see some folks, these appear to be medics from the protest group, that are now carrying somebody across the intersection. We don't know what's happened there, but there's a group of about 6 that are carrying somebody across the intersection, and we do not know what situation. It looked like they were tending to her on the ground over on the other side of the intersection, and they're now moving her out. Don't know exactly what's going on with that.
Yeah, Jeremy.
So yeah, again, go ahead.
I was going to say that a lot of this violence when the police moved in and they started to clash with these protesters, it appeared, and I'm just saying this based on what I saw in some of our footage, it looked like some rubber bullets were being fired, and also possibly some mace being used to try to disperse the crowd. And a lot of this precipitated after several people with an axe, and I think one man may have had a sledgehammer, started breaking out the windows of Sim Gill's office. They had kind of started hitting on the windows and broke about 5 or 6 of them before the police really started to move in with it, with force.
And one other heads up we want to give to our viewers, not a great time to be downtown, but if you do need to catch a train or a bus, you may be waiting for a while. Ride UTA right now saying due to these protests in the area, trains won't be proceeding northbound past the ballpark station. That's near 1300 South. They say buses have stopped downtown. And a little earlier, we saw people actually sitting on the tracks line. So if you're trying to get up to the University of Utah or anywhere else from this downtown area, it looks like those trains are stopped for now and could be for a while longer. We did see some people sitting on these tracks, but it looks like police may have moved them off. But for now, Ride UTA tried to keep those trains clear of the area.
And you saw the damage at Sim Gill's office. They painted the street red to signify blood in the streets. They also painted the sign there, put their handprints on that in red paint, again to symbolize blood. Put up signs all across the front windows of Sim Gill's office there, and then you can see the damage from the red paint. And ironically, that stretch of road where they painted it red was just repaved the other day from the first violent protest that we had. And you can see all the graffiti and all the damage done to the building here by those protesters before police moved in.
And some of this graffiti, you may notice some explicit words here. We do apologize if you see that or hear that. This is a brand new district attorney's office. If you don't spend a lot of time downtown, it's built right behind the Matheson Courthouse, kind of between State Street and Main Street, a beautiful brand new building. And again, we're hearing those windows. We haven't seen it since it's happened, but the windows have been broken out since that red paint went out. And Mark, we weren't able to see any of the people doing it because the protesters brought their own policing squad of some sort that blocked our cameras, so we couldn't see who was making those criminal acts at the time.
Yeah, our reporters were harassed while they were trying to cover the story. They did not want their faces on TV. That could be a result of the fact that police have been using news video from all the stations to try to find some of the people that have been vandalizing police cars and things like that.
That's right, and Sim Gill's office has actually charged people with some of those crimes, people who've stolen guns from the police car from May 30th, who set that car on fire. He has been prosecuting people who were out after curfew, but people committing serious crimes were prosecuted. Apparently these protesters learning, I guess you could say, from that, and came down there prepared to do these criminal acts and somehow protect themselves. We don't know exactly who was in charge of, I guess, organizing this protest today. So we have some questions about who did that, because it seems to me they were very organized in planning this and coming downtown today.
Jeremy Harris has made his way back to Sim Gill's office, and again, the video you just saw there, that video was taken before those windows were broken out. I don't know if you've been able to see that damage down there, Jeremy.
Then step away from it, because we're gonna yeah. So what we can tell you, we're down at the district attorney's office. This was the site of the clash. We've only been able to come down here because the protesters have moved. We were prevented from being down here earlier. You can see there is just red paint everywhere. They have plastered this in the front with these posters. This is something they've been doing basically nightly with these posters, but the paint is everywhere. We can see a couple of windows. As our photographer moves down this way, you'll be able to see where they were bashing out these windows. And I imagine these are pretty strong windows. And it probably took some work to get it even bashed out to that point. So it looks like they were in the process of bashing out. I can see at least 3 windows, 4 that have extensive damage. I also just want to put a disclaimer out there. There may be some swear words on the glass and on some of these posters that you see. But you can see this pile of glass here. If you look down, this was the remnants of where this was all going on. Now, there's nobody back here right now, so we've been able to walk down this way. We don't know where that protest group is, but we are just getting really our first look at the damage here at the district attorney's office. There are police around us blocking that intersection at Main Street and 500 South. And they're just kind of keeping an eye out. We don't see any sort of law enforcement presence here at the DA's office. But again, as you can see, they've got all this red. So this was the epicenter of the protest that we were looking at earlier. And you remember when we were being held very back by those protesters, this is basically what was going on down here. So we're getting our first look at this right now. And really, you can just tell there was a lot that happened here. And there's just globs of red paint everywhere. And again, they've repainted the road, which was previously painted red a few days ago. That has been since been repainted red. And then there's been red paint splattered all over the front of the district attorney's office. We'll send it back to you.
All right, Jeremy, thanks. I think our Michael Locklear is still following the protesters and the police right now.
That's right. And Michael, last time we checked in, it looked like they were heading south. Where are you at right now, and what are you seeing?
Right, they moved a couple of blocks south of the Matheson Courthouse in the City County building to about 700 South. This is State Street behind me. About 100 protesters in front of a number of businesses like the Big Deluxe Tattoo and some other businesses as well. There are also about half a dozen or so vehicles wrapped up in this. It seems that they've stopped at this intersection. They've potentially taken over this intersection, although we're about half a block behind, because when we get too close, the protesters block our cameras. Again, they're concerned about their faces being seen. But it does appear that they have shut down 700 South at State Street in both lanes of traffic, and they have some music going, and we can't quite make out what the megaphone is saying, but they're continuing their chants as they were earlier. And we kind of see a few people on the flanks here with, it looks like they might be on the move, heading north again. We'll watch for a second. Yeah, it again appears that the protesters have changed direction. They're now heading north on State Street. And again, Eddie, see if you can get a shot of that chopper up there. That is the Utah Department of Public Safety helicopter that has been repeating the message, this unlawful assembly